The downpour came out of nowhere, hammering the restaurant windows like 1,000 tiny fists, but Michael barely noticed the storm outside. His heart was already storming inside his chest. He didn't know why he felt so nervous. Maybe it was because he hadn't been on a date in 3 years. Maybe it was because he wasn't sure what he was doing anymore. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because the woman sitting across from him, Emily Carter, seemed to carry a quiet sadness in her eyes that pulled him in like gravity, even though they had barely spoken 10 minutes. But he didn't know that tonight, a single whisper from a little girl would shake him to his core, rewrite his understanding of love, and change the course of all their lives forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments, make sure to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. Michael tried to steady his breathing as he sat across from Emily in the booth. She was beautiful in a soft, effortless way, dark hair falling in gentle waves, a simple pink dress that looked both elegant and comfortable, and a denim jacket she kept adjusting as if she wasn't used to dressing up or being seen. But she wasn't alone. Her daughter, 6-year-old Lily, sat beside her, swinging her little legs under the table, wearing a polka-dot shirt and the brightest pink skirt Michael had ever seen. Frankly, she looked far more confident than he did. This wasn't supposed to be a complicated evening. His co-worker had set them up, saying Emily was sweet, hardworking, and deserved someone who would treat her right. Michael had agreed to the blind date hesitantly, knowing his own heart still carried pieces of past hurt he hadn't figured out how to let go of. But the moment he stepped into the restaurant and saw Emily, something inside him paused, like the world held its breath, inviting him to notice her. He had no idea how much pain she was fighting through just to sit in front of him. From the beginning, the night felt off. Emily kept checking her phone, apologizing in a whisper when messages popped up, messages from her ex, messages that clearly made her tense, messages she tried to hide from Michael but couldn't hide from her daughter. Michael tried to lighten the mood, telling little stories, smiling at Lily, trying to make Emily laugh. But something always pulled her back into herself, as though she was terrified of letting anyone see who she really was. Then Lily accidentally spilled her apple juice all over the table, soaking Michael's sleeve. He laughed it off, but Emily's face went pale with embarrassment. When the waiter slipped and dropped a plate behind them, she startled so violently that Michael realized she was operating on a level of stress he didn't yet understand. Halfway through the meal, Emily excused herself to the restroom. She looked like she was about to cry. Michael let out a long breath and leaned back, rubbing the bridge of his nose. This wasn't working. He had come hoping for a fresh start, or maybe just a pleasant evening. But the air felt heavy with unspoken things, and he worried he was only adding pressure to a woman already drowning in responsibilities. That's when Lily, who had been scribbling with a purple crayon on her kid's menu, slowly looked up at him. Her big brown eyes studied him quietly, like she was trying to understand something adults never seemed to say out loud. Before Michael could ask if she was okay, she whispered something soft and unexpected. "Please don't leave." He blinked. "Little one, why would I leave?" But she didn't answer, not yet. Her tiny hands folded in her lap as though she was afraid of saying the wrong thing. When Emily returned to the table, she had forced herself into calmness, but everything about her, her posture, her eyes, the way she held Lily's hand too tightly, told Michael she was unraveling. And it dawned on him, maybe she hadn't been ready for a date. Maybe she had only agreed because someone pushed her into it. Maybe she was still healing from something he couldn't see. So he made a decision, a gentle one, but a firm one. He thanked her for coming, paid the bill quietly, and walked them outside under the restaurant's bright awning where the storm had softened into a drizzle. He smiled warmly at Emily, doing his best to sound understanding rather than disappointed. "Emily, maybe tonight just wasn't the right night," he said softly. "You've had a long day. And I don't want to add stress." Her face froze. A tiny flinch. A hint of fear flashing behind her eyes. He wasn't sure why, but walking away felt like abandoning something fragile. Still, he stepped back, giving her space. He didn't expect what came next. Lily suddenly let go of her mother's hand and rushed up to him, gripping his fingers in her small, trembling ones. She looked up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes too old for her age. Please don't leave my mom again." The words hit Michael harder than a punch.
Again? What did that mean?
Michael crouched down to her level, his heart thudding. He spoke gently, like one wrong tone might shatter the child in front of him.
Lily, sweetheart. I never left your mom. I just met her.
But Lily shook her head vigorously, pointing at her mother, who stood frozen, her face drained of color. Every time someone is nice to her, they leave, the little girl whispered, her voice cracking. And she cries in the kitchen when she thinks I'm sleeping.
I just want her to smile again.
Emily covered her mouth with her hand. Tears streamed down her cheeks before she could stop them. The rawness of the moment peeled away every wall she had tried to hold up all night.
Michael's throat tightened painfully.
The truth hung in the chilly evening air, heavy, heartbreaking, honest.
He could walk away. He could tell himself this wasn't his responsibility.
He could say he didn't know them well enough to get involved. But Lily's tiny hand was wrapped around his fingers, pleading in a way he knew came from lived pain, not childish imagination.
He looked up at Emily.
She was shaking her head, ashamed, embarrassed, silently begging him not to judge her.
But he didn't see a broken woman.
He just saw someone who had been carrying too much alone. He stood slowly, still holding Lily's hand, and stepped closer to Emily, not invading her space, just close enough that she knew he wasn't walking away.
Emily, he said gently, you don't have to explain anything tonight. But I'm not leaving because of a messy date. I'm here. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to stay.
Emily broke, quietly, painfully, beautifully. She wiped her tears, took a shaky breath, and whispered 2 words.
Please stay.
They ended up walking to the parking lot together slowly, the storm making the pavement shimmer beneath the streetlights.
Emily explained softly that Lily's father had left when she was 3.
Since then, the few men who had shown interest never stayed long. Some were kind at first, some pretended to care, but once they saw the challenges of dating a single mother, they backed out without warning.
Lily noticed everything.
Michael clenched his jaw, not in anger at Emily, but in anger at the world that had allowed this little girl to think kindness was temporary. As they walked, he found himself telling them things he hadn't planned to share. How he had lost someone he loved years ago, how he had stopped dating because he feared repeating old mistakes, how he had forgotten what it felt like to hope. Yet somehow, in the span of one messy evening, he found himself wanting to protect this woman and her daughter from every hurt they had ever known. Emily listened, Lily held their hands tightly, and for a moment, the night felt peaceful.
They reached Emily's car.
She fumbled with her keys, looking nervous again. Michael, you really don't have to keep in touch, she said quietly, as if giving him permission to disappear.
Tonight wasn't fair to you.
He looked at her with steady eyes.
Emily, life is messy. People are messy. That's real. And I don't want something perfect. I want something honest.
Her breath hitched. And if honesty means spilled juice, stressful days, or your ex texting nonstop,
I can handle that.
Emily stared at him like she didn't know how to believe him. Like her heart wanted to, but her mind warned her not to trust hope. But Lily believed. She tugged his hand gently.
Are you going to come again? She whispered.
Michael smiled at her, soft, sincere, unfiltered.
If your mom wants me to, yes. I'd like to.
Emily looked at her daughter, then at him, then nodded slowly. It was a small nod. But Michael understood it was the bravest yes she had given anyone in a long time.
Days passed. 1 visit turned into 2. 2 turned into a week.
And soon, Michael found himself weaving into their lives in ways he never expected. He helped Lily with her homework, cooked dinner with Emily, showed up when her car battery died, and listened when she admitted how terrified she was of trusting someone again. There were still moments when she pulled away, moments when her past fears resurfaced, moments when Michael had to remind her, sometimes with words, sometimes just by showing up, that he wasn't going anywhere. Slowly, the walls she had built began to crack.
And through those cracks, light entered. Michael didn't try to fix her.
He didn't try to replace the people who had hurt her.
He simply stayed. One evening, months later, they stood outside the same restaurant where everything had begun.
This time, there were no storms.